On September 22nd, 1957, during a crucial series between the Reds and the St. Louis Cardinals, a storm held up the game. Being late in the season, the umpires wanted to have the game played. The time delay gave Waite Hoyt an opportunity to reminisce about a crucial game and the most memorable crucial series of his early playing days. Let's pick up Waite as he so graphically describes the emotions, feelings, and drama of that great game.
That was one crucial series. It was just the season before when the New York Yankees had a crucial series with the Cleveland Indians in the Polo Grounds, when the Yankees were still playing in the Polo Grounds, and we had to play Cleveland 4 out of 4 straight games in the Polo Grounds. And at those days, Miller's position of Miller Huggins, the Yankee manager, was not as solid and as strong as it was a few years later. And before the game, in the final game of that series, I had pitched the first game and beat Cleveland 4-2. We won the second game from Cleveland also. I think we did. We won the 2 out of the first 3 anyway, winning one game by an outlandish score, something like 19-4. And then in the fourth game, we had them down 2-1. And Miller Huggins called a meeting of the pitchers in the clubhouse, and they left it up to the pitchers as to who would pitch. Old Jack Quinn, that was, who had shut out Cleveland 6-0 in Cleveland, but who hadn't pitched much since, or whether they should start me back for the second time in the series. So they said, well, the other pitchers voted to start Quinn, and if he ran into quick trouble, to substitute me. So in the last game of that crucial series, Cleveland jumped on Quinn in the first inning for 3 runs, I think, before Quinn got anybody out. And before we knew what was happening, I was in there without anyone out, and I got him out, and the game seesawed back and forth. And I can remember my feelings and my actual determinations in that ball game, because the ball players kept telling you on the bench, bear down, bear down, bear down. And I remember sitting on the bench in between innings, because this was the first, if we won the pennant, it would be the first time that the Yankees had ever won the pennant in the history of baseball, you see. And consequently, it was going to provide the first all-city series in New York in the history of the World Series, although the White Sox and Chicago Cubs had provided the first intra-city series years before in Chicago, but it would have been the first time 2 New York clubs had played. So, of course, we were very anxious to win this thing, and not only anxious, but because a lot of us had never played in a World Series, and we were very anxious to do that also. And I can remember, I was 21 years old at the time, and I remember the anxiety and I suppose the effervescence of youth that brought all your emotions to the top and just drove you on to sit on the bench in between innings and keep saying to yourself, bear down, put everything you got on every pitch. Put everything you got on every pitch, and that's what we did. When we went out there, we just tried to keep the pitchers outside and all types of batters so they wouldn't hit the ball in the seats, and just bear down and rear back and throw the ball as hard as you could. And I can remember for the last about 6 games of the season that year, trying to adopt the style of Grover Cleveland Alexander, in turning around and scrunching up your shoulders, bringing your knee up close to your chin and trying to hide the ball as much as you can, turning it back to the batter so that he wouldn't get a good sight of the ball, and then letting fly with everything that you had just as hard as you could throw the ball. And the game seesawed back and forth, and we tied the score, then we went ahead. Then Cleveland tied the score, and Ruth hit a home run, and we went ahead again, and we got down to the 8th inning, and the score was, I think, 7-6 in favor of Cleveland, or some score like that, and Ruth belted another home run and put us ahead 8-7. And I was so tired and so worn out in that thing, not only from throwing the ball as hard as I could, but I guess from my own emotion and anxiety, that I was really gone goose in the 8th inning, and they took me out and they put Carl Mays in. Mays got out of the inning, but now remember, in those days the games used to start at 3:15 in the afternoon, and now it's 5:15. And in those days the season used to run longer into October, and this was in early October, and the night shadows were falling, and the Polo Grounds was always sort of a dark ballpark, and the purple shadows were deepening in the Polo Grounds, and they were lowering and lowering, and there was sort of a haze over the field, and it was a very dramatic setting. And in that ball game, in the 9th inning, Mays didn't walk men, but he loaded the bases, 3 on base, and a good 300 hitting catcher, Steve O'Neill, at the plate for for the Cleveland Indians. And I can remember that Colonel Jacob Rupert, who owned the Rupert Brewery at the time, and Rupert Brewery was in the bullpen with us. As I was out of the game, but I didn't go in the clubhouse. As I stood down in the bullpen, way down in the deep shadows in center, trying to watch the home plate, and Rupert was walking up and down in front of the bullpen players saying, "I give you the Brewery, I give you the Brewery, win the pennant, I give you the Brewery." And finally we saw Mays with the count of 2-2 on O'Neill wind up in that underhand pitch of his and come in there with the ball, and we saw O'Neill swing. Then we saw the center fielder start back. We didn't know whether he was Elmer Miller, his name was. We didn't know whether he was going back for the ball or because the game was over, because the clubhouses were in center field. And suddenly we realized that O'Neill had struck out, but it took us several minutes to register that. And then everything following that ball game, we won at 8-7. And this is an actual vital statistic fact that there were 2 or 3 people that died in the grandstand that afternoon from heart failure. That's really the truth. And it was one of the most memorable occasions that I can ever recall.